What's going on, everybody? Welcome back here to another mock draft video. I know it's been a while since I recorded, got busy with school, Christmas break, had some broadcasting gigs, but we are back and I've done a lot of scouting work in my free time for this draft. So I'm really excited for this year's draft. This is probably the most early scouting I've done for a draft yet. I've been scouting for about 4 or 5 years now. So I'm excited. I've done a lot of deep dives, especially into this quarterback class, but we'll get into that. We'll just start the mock draft right here. Of course, with draft season ramping up, I will get more videos out, mock drafts, big boards. We'll talk about prospects. Maybe we'll even do a couple film deep dives if you guys are interested in that. So you're going to want to leave a like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so that you don't miss any of these new uploads. But we'll get started here. The Tennessee Titans with the number 1 overall draft pick, and I think this is pretty easy for me. I'm going to give them Cam Ward. This isn't a surefire thing. We saw that their GM, or there were reports that their GM was, really liking Cam Ward, and then he got fired a day later. So maybe the rest of the organization doesn't really like Cam Ward like the GM did. However, I think they go quarterback, and I do think Ward, in my opinion, I think Ward is much better than Shedeur Sanders. However, I think Tennessee is going to consider both options. I think they're also going to consider Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, as well as maybe even trading down. However, I'm going to give them Cam Ward for this one. The Cleveland Browns, of course, my team. I am a Browns fan. I personally don't really want Shedeur Sanders at this pick. I want Abdul Carter. I don't think they go quarterback. I think they opt to go for the veteran route or like a 1-year bridge and wait for next year. Maybe they re-sign Jameis. Maybe they go Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, Minshew. Maybe they take a flyer on like a Zach Wilson. Now that we've seen, Jets quarterbacks like Darnold, it's not really their fault. It's the Jets' fault. So maybe they take a flyer on somebody. But for this pick, I'm going to go Abdul Carter. I know they have Garrett. You can't just rely on one edge rusher. Garrett needs help. He's getting doubled every time. If you have Carter on the other side and he turns out to be as good as people think he is, good as I think he is, you can't double Garrett. You can't double either of them. Then at that point, you got to choose one to double with a tight end, and then the other one's getting one-on-one with the offensive tackle. Carter's incredible. I think he's the best defense player in the class by far, and I think he has an argument. I think he probably will be my number 1 overall player in the class by the time my big board is done. That leaves the New York Giants at 3, and they desperately need quarterback. And I do think Shedeur Sanders, if he's on the board at 3, the Giants would take him. Tommy DeVito's not it. Drew Lock's not it. You got rid of Daniel Jones. Are you going to trade for somebody? I mean, Shedeur's not my favorite prospect. I don't have a first-round grade on him. I don't even have a second-round grade on him. However, it's a valuable position. He definitely has upside and potential. I mean, I'm not denying that. I think he's going to need some time to learn and develop. You probably go with Drew Lock or a bridge guy for like the first 6-7 games of the season. Then you go with Shedeur Sanders. And after that, you're feeling pretty good about, this guy who has elite accuracy, decent arm talent, right? I think you're gonna want to surround him with a couple more weapons than what they have over there in New York right now. However, with the whole, wearing New York Giants cleats for the bowl game and then getting blown out by BYU thing, I think Shedeur's probably more than likely going to be a New York Giant at this point, unless Deion Sanders ends up taking that Raiders job, which could be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. I heard the Cowboys are his top choice. If they were to offer, he would go there, which kind of is a little bit of an FU to all those Colorado players he recruited. But hey, Deion can do what he wants, I guess. That leaves New England at 4, and they really need wide receivers, desperately need a weapon to get for Drake May. I think you go Teteroya McMillan here. I think he's the best wide receiver in the class. I have issues or concerns, I guess, with lack of effort sometimes showing up on tape, as well as lack of separation, but he's got strong hands, really, really physical, a big guy. He's going to test really, really well. And you just need to get Drake May, a wide receiver 1 kind of archetype player. Kayshon Boutte stepped up, Demario Douglas stepped up, but you need more than that. Go with Teteroya McMillan here and continue to build around your young quarterback. And the Jaguars at 5. This one, the fall can't happen anymore. I know a lot of people think Travis Hunter is the best player in the class and think he'll go 1 because of that, but it's just positional value. He's not a full-time wide receiver. And if he was going to play full-time wide receiver, he'd probably be wide receiver 3 behind McMillan and Burden. Corner, he's probably corner 2 behind Will Johnson. However, just off of the name, the hype, the ability to be a gadget on offense, even though he's going to be probably full-time corner in the NFL, I think the Jaguars take Travis Hunter there at 5. If he gets to the Jaguars, that's pretty easy. He's got a case to go to the Browns, Giants, or Patriots as well. However, I just think they value other positions or other players ahead of him. That comes to the Raiders. And recently, in recent drafts, aka just last year, they just started going best player available rather than, going with the typical Raiders reaching for players that don't really work out. So I think they go best player available, and I think they take Ashton Jeanty here. Genty's got a kind of a weird stock because I don't think he goes to Jacksonville. I don't think he goes as high. The Cowboys, I don't think the Niners are a landing spot. I don't really think the Bears are a landing spot, not the Saints. The Panthers could be, but they have more pressing needs, not the Jets. I think the Raiders are probably the highest he could potentially go. And if they continue to go BPA like they did with Brock Bowers last year, continue to just get that offense. You can find your quarterback maybe in the second or third, or wait for next year's class, because without Shadur or Ward on the board, I don't think you really go quarterback here. So go with Jeanty, get your running back of the future. He's incredible. We all know what Ashton Jeanty can do. Should have won the Heisman, in my opinion. The Jets at 7. I say you go BPA, and to me that's Mason Graham at this point. Really, really good player out of Michigan, both him and Kenneth Grant. Has a really solid defensive line for the last couple of years for the Wolverines. Helped them win that national championship. The Jets just need to get talent. They just need to get better around the board. You don't know what's going to go on with Aaron Rodgers here, but go defense. I think you just need to beef up that interior of your defensive line a little bit. Panthers, this is an easy Will Johnson spot for me. They need DB. Will Johnson, I think, is the best corner in the class. Of course, missed some games with injury, but he's put together a couple really, really good years of tape. He's big, he's physical, great ball skills. Doesn't really get lost in coverage at all. I think he's really, really good. And probably a top 5 player in the class for me. So Will Johnson to Carolina. The Saints at 9. This one's interesting. Ryan Ramczyk just officially retired a couple days ago, so you could maybe look at tackle. You could look at wide receiver with Luther Burden. You could even go on the D-line. Guys like Nick Scorton are here. I'm a huge fan of Shamar Stewart. Huge fan of, where is he? They have him solo Jalen Walker, who I don't think is just going to be pure linebacker. He can rush the passer very well. I think he'll go higher than people expect. I'm going to go with Josh Simmons here, put the first tackle off the board. He missed some time with injury this year. However, off of tape, pure tape, he's the best tackle in the class. Will Campbell profiles as guard. He's got really, really short arms, as well as Kelvin Banks, who probably profiles as stick at tackle, but I think he could kick inside the guard depending on the team. I just have concerns with him, not athletically, but just footwork and a couple mechanics with him. But I think Josh Simmons is the best tackle in the class for me. The Saints can replace Ryan Ramczyk on that right side, or even the left side. Simmons can play both with Josh Simmons once he gets healthy. The Bears at 10, this is an easy Will Campbell spot for me. I think I've done this in my last mock draft, it was a couple months ago even, but Campbell projects to move inside the guard. They desperately need interior, and Campbell has the versatility where if you have an injury, he could probably kick out the tackle for a game or two, but with those short arms, I don't think you want him as a long-term tackle. I think you want long-term guard, continue to build up around Caleb Williams and that young offense, and Campbell there's a great pick for that. Let's see, the 49ers, where do they go? 49ers are an interesting team. I think I'm probably going to go edge rusher here. We haven't seen much defense go, or much like defensive line go off the board. We really just saw Abdul Carter and Mason Graham. So I think we go with an edge rusher. And I think we go with Mykel Williams, who I think is going to be the second edge off the board behind Abdul Carter. Really, really good player, an athletic freak out of Georgia. Georgia just has so many athletically gifted defensive players come out of that program in the last couple of years. Beef up the edge rusher, get pressure on the quarterback. Mykel Williams is really, really good athlete. You're going to be able to mold him and develop him like the Niners do to a lot of defensive players. And I think it's going to help them a lot. They had a disappointing season. Mykel Williams can help get that defense back on track. Dallas here at pick 12. I think this is an easy Luther Burden spot for me. You just need more weapons, and you got to keep Dak Prescott healthy, but you can't just be throwing to CeeDee Lamb. Jalen Tolbert hasn't really worked out. Michael Gallup's off the team. Luther Burden's a really, really electric slot guy. Great with the ball in his hands. He's going to be a huge yards after catch guy. And there's not many concerns with him, to be honest. He's a really, really overall solid player. I wouldn't be mad if you had him at wide receiver 1 over Tat McMillan either. The Cowboys get a really, really good player there and a great value pick because I think most likely he will be going top 10. So if Dallas can get him down there, you're pretty happy with that selection. Dolphins at 13. I hate picking for the Dolphins. But I'm going to go tackle, and I'm going to push somebody up the board a little bit. I'm going to push Armand Membu up the board from Missouri. I think he's going to go higher than people expect. He's one of those guys that you don't really know his name much unless you're really into the draft fold. He's really good. Played tackle in Missouri. I think he could kick into guard. I think he could also kick its tackle. Again, a lot of this year's class is tackles who most likely profile as guards but could kick inside. Cam Williams will stay on the outside. Same with Connerly and Banks. But Milam could kick inside. Zabel could kick inside. Savainaya and Bo could kick inside. Donovan Jackson. I mean, there's a lot of tackles who profile as guards. So it kind of depends on the team they're picking. But Miami just needs to get a better offensive line. You have to protect Tua from hitting the ground. Too many concussions for him. You have to protect him. Colts at 14. I'm going to go with an interesting, weird pick here. I'm going to go Tyler Warren out of Penn State. Arguably the best tight end in the class. However, I do not think he should have won the Mackey. I think that should have gone to Harold Fannin Jr. Fannin has his own concerns. I think he'll test really well, though. And I think he has an argument to be a first-round pick. Maybe we'll sneak him in here in one of these drafts just to mix things up before draft season. But for now, we'll push Warren here. I think he's probably a top 10, 15 player in the class. You need more weapons over there in Indianapolis for Richardson. If you're going to continue going with Anthony Richardson, Warren could just do so many things on the field. He's a great runner, great catcher, great block. I mean, he's a solid blocker too, honestly. There aren't many flaws in Tyler Warren's game, and I think he'd be a great addition to that Indianapolis offense. Falcons here, you just need the best defensive player, probably in the front seven. And to me, that's Jalen Walker from Georgia. He's athletic enough to play linebacker, to rush the passer. He's big enough to do both those things. He's going to be such a good player. And honestly, I really liken him to kind of how Micah Parsons was coming out, where he played a lot of off-ball linebacker and he has the athleticism to do it. However, he can also rush the passer. And I don't know if he'll be full-time edge like Micah Parsons is now. However, I do think he will play a lot of, different spots on the field. I can play on the edge. He can play up the middle. He can sink back into coverage really well. I think you can put Jalen Walker in a lot of creative spots. And I think Atlanta just needs to take the best defensive player, to be honest. And to me, that's Jalen Walker at this point. Arizona, I'm going to go with Shamar Stewart here out of Texas A&M. Where is Shamar Stewart? They have him listed as an edge rusher. Interesting. He's kind of like that 3-4 defensive end where he could play on the edge. He's huge. Absolutely huge. I mean, this is a monster of a man here. What do they have him listed at on PFF? Do they show me? First look, here we go. 6'6", 290. I mean, he's huge. And he's an athletic freak as well. I think he could come off the edge. You could rotate him inside. And for that 3-4 defense that they still run over there in Arizona, he'd be a really, really valuable piece for them. And I think that'd probably be their best selection there. He needs a little bit of developing. But again, athletic freak. You can mold the player a little bit. Bengals at 17. They need the best defensive player available. Probably up the middle. And that's where you see Kenneth Grant go off of Michigan. They went with a Michigan defensive lineman last year. I cannot, for the life of me, think his name. I can't think of his name. They went with a Michigan defensive lineman last year. Go with another one. Kenneth Grant's really, really good. He's had a couple really productive seasons for Michigan. The Bengals really just need to beef up that defense and that defensive line specifically, because that's what kept them out of the playoffs this year. They couldn't get stops when they needed it. Seattle at 18. This has been a really popular pick, and I've been doing it for a lot of my mock drafts. Is Jonah Savainaya. Yes, that's how you pronounce it. Savainaya. I have done the research. He's profiling the kick inside the guard, and they need to improve the interior of their offensive line. That's a pretty easy one for me. Tampa Bay at 19. What do I do with the Buccaneers? I'm going to go with an interesting pick. You need linebacker. Your linebacker core is kind of getting pretty old, and I think there's only one here that is going to go off the board in the first round. Pure linebacker, not like Jalen Walker who can play multiple spots. And that's Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. Really, really good. You're not going to have Levante David forever. He's aging. The Devin White pick didn't work out for you. He's not on the team anymore. Go with Jahad Campbell. He's a really, really solid player. I think he can help your offense or your defense out a lot. Broncos here. Sean Payton has a tendency to draft kind of weird. He has his guys in mind. His drafts with the Saints are very interesting, to say the least. So you don't really know what they can do. I mean, my mind is telling me Malachi Starks. He's fallen to pick 20. He's the best player available by far here, and I think he will go before this. However, just the spots haven't been there at the right time. So do the Broncos take him? They need safety. However, it's Sean Payton, so they might get a little weird with their draft pick, and I think that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. I'm going to go tight end Colson Loveland. Sean Payton likes to use his tight end, and he doesn't really have a great one right now. So go with Loveland, who has an argument for top 2 tight ends in the class. To me, it's Warren, then Fannin, then Loveland, then Mason Taylor. Some people have Loveland even 1 or 2. I wouldn't be mad at that either. Go with Colson Loveland there. Beef up that offense. Get Bo Nix more weapons. He had a really solid rookie year. Steelers at 21. This is the Malachi Starks spot for me because Mike Tomlin does draft well, and he does draft BPA a lot, and Malachi Starks is the best player on the board. They're going to find ways to use him over there in that Pittsburgh defense, and that's scary for the rest of the AFC North. The Chargers at 22, Harbaugh is probably pissed that Loveland went 2 picks ahead of him. Of course, in this scenario, there are no trades. So I think you go wide receiver. You went wide receiver last year, right? And you took Ladd McConkey. I think you go with an outside guy now in Alec Iomanner. I think that's how you pronounce it. Honestly, couldn't tell you. I haven't done much research into his name, but I've done research into his tape, and he's good. I think he'll go first round. He's big, he's athletic, he catches well. If you remember that highlight when Colorado played Stanford a couple of years ago, and Travis Hunter got mossed, it was Alec Iomanner here who had his hands on the other side of Hunter's helmet holding the ball. That's that guy. He's really, really good out of Stanford. I think he'll be solid. I think he could be pushed up in the first round. Along with another wide receiver who I think could make the first round is Matthew Golden, who just declared. Of course, I don't do these mock drafts ahead of time. I do them all as they come. So maybe we'll get Golden into the first round here. Who knows? Green Bay at 23. They have such a good defense. So let's make it better. Let's make that defense even better. Get more young edge rushers. To me, we go with James Pierce Jr. I think he's the best athletic edge rusher in the class. Really fast. Needs to develop a little bit more technique as well as probably get a little bigger, get a little bit more power. But he's really solid. I think he could definitely go higher than this as well. Minnesota at 24. We're going to go running back here. Some people like Amarian Hampton here, Caleb Johnson here, Dylan Sampson's really good. This is such a stacked running back class, to be honest. I mean, there are so many good players. A lot of people like Scatabo as well. Scatabo, I don't think he'll go in the first 3 rounds just because of athletic testing. Obviously, the production's there, but there's more than production when it comes to drafting in the NFL. I'm going to go with Caleb Johnson here, a little bit closer to Minnesota than Amarian Hampton is. And I think they both had really, really solid years. I think a lot of people prefer Hampton. Personally, Hampton is my running back too. However, I definitely can see Johnson there. And I think Caleb Johnson has an argument to go ahead of Hampton just based off the season he had. He really carried Iowa's offense this year. Incredible player. Minnesota just needs to get a little bit better in the run game. Of course, you're looking to go with J.J. McCarthy here probably next year. McCarthy's used to, of course, Michigan playing with great running backs. So get him a couple. You still have Aaron Jones. I think they still have Cam Akers there as well. But Johnson would be the best one in that running back room instantly. Texans at 25. Where do the Houston Texans go? We've seen the fall of a couple really good players. Kelvin Banks, Nick Gordon. Again, this is just how mock drafts go. Players fall. Players go earlier than you expected. Players go later than you expect. No one can perfectly predict a mock draft. So if you're mad about me having a specific player falling, it happens. I mean, in the next mock, maybe they go higher. It's all about the picks on the board. I'm not going to, pre-do a pick. I'm not going to say, all right, Colts at 14, no matter what happens ahead of them, I'm going to go with Kelvin Banks. That's not how that works because they changed their board. Every team's board is shifting around as picks ahead of them go. It's weird. Some people just don't watch the videos and they're like, why did my team take this player, but we need this guy? It was like, well, he wasn't on the board. He got picked. You need to pivot. So it's Texans. I've had Texans fans in my comment sections complaining before, specifically last year, a lot. I'm going to go on the D-line for Houston. I'm going to go Derek Harmon out of Oregon. They have him really low on the PFF board. I don't really know why. One of the better interior D linemen in the class. Had a really productive season for Oregon. Really, really good power. He's gonna eat up space in the middle and has some pass rush juice as well. I think that helps Houston a little bit, who maybe has a chance to beat the Chiefs this weekend. This is filming this on Friday, January 17th, and this is going up, I believe, on Saturday night. So we'll see if they have the chance to beat the Chiefs. The Rams at 26. I'm going to go with a defensive back here. I think they need to improve that cornerback room, and we're going to go with Chavon Revel. Tore his ACL, so he missed a lot of the season, but he's really, really good, athletic guy. He's tall. I think he can play on the outside, and once he heals fully from that ACL tear, he's going to be really, really good. They just need to improve that cornerback group as a whole, and I think Revel does that for them. Washington at 27. I think this is where we push up Matthew Golden here. He had a really, really good year for Texas, and he declared. I think he's going to go in the first round. And honestly, you can not have too many weapons for Jaden Daniels. Terry McLaurin's really solid. Diami Brown's played well. You just need more, though. And Golden can be that other guy on the outside, apart from Terry McLaurin, and continue to build around Daniels, who's looked so, so good in his rookie season as that continues deep into the playoffs. The Ravens at 28. They stopped the fall of Kelvin Banks. I know a lot of people are going to be mad about Kelvin Banks falling here. It's just how it happens. There's concerns with him, and he's falling down scouts' boards recently. I think he's going to test really well, which may push him back up. But at this point, and in this specific scenario, he just falls. Of course, the Ravens, though, they always draft really well, so I think they'll get a really good player there in Kelvin Banks. Continue to beef up that tackle group. Bills at 29. You went wide receiver last year. I think you got to improve your defense. And this is where Nick Scorton goes off the board for me. Again, he's another guy who could also go higher. PFF has him ranked a little higher than I think the consensus is. But just continue to improve that defense. They gave up a couple too many points this year, so get more pass rush juice there. Can never have too much pass rush. Never have too much pass rush. Have to emphasize that a lot because people get mad when their teams take extra edge rushers like we already have two. Ever heard of rotational edge rushers? You need more than two. You just need more than two. Eagles at 30, they always go defensive or offensive line here. And do I think they do that again? What do they do? Eagles are a tough team for me. Always a tough team for me. I don't think linebackers, really a thing. Don't really think. Let's see. Where do they go? I think you go Cam Williams, right? I think he's one of the best highest upside tackles, in the class. Really needs some development, and who better to develop offensive linemen than the Eagles? I mean, they develop the O-line better than anyone else in the league. And Cam Williams, he definitely needs some time to sit and learn, but he's an athletic guy. Once he really gets the mechanics down and he gets taught by that Eagles coaching group, I think he can be the tackle of future on either side for them. Of course, you really like Jordan Mailata on that left, so probably on the right side for Cam Williams. Chiefs at 31. I'm going to go ride the hot hand here of Jack Sawyer. Do I think Jack Sawyer goes in the first? Probably not, but I think there's a chance. He had a really, really good game against Texas. Maybe, that kind of playoff run that he's having pushes him up the board. Of course, there's still a lot of time. I don't know how well he's going to test athletically at the combine and pro days and all that. So we'll see, but for now, we'll ride the hot hand and put him on the Chiefs. Pick 32 with the Lions. Where do the Lions want to go? I think you go edge rusher because they really, really miss Aiden Hutchinson, and you need someone to rush the passer when he's not in there. And we're going to go Mike Green out of Marshall. I haven't gotten too much into Mike Green's tape, but he's really, really strong, really smart, great use of hands. He has a pass rush plan in there. Of course, we got to get rid of PFF's ad every time. And I think Mike Green will go in the first round. I think he's going to test incredibly well, and he's going to surprise a lot of people. There's always that, group of five player that nobody really expects, who's really, really solid and athletic, who always sneaks into the first round, and I think that will be Mike Green this season. So take a look here, of course. Only 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, a lot of tackles. This is a defensive-heavy draft. If your team needs defense, you're happy in this one. But that will do it for this video. Of course, if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Turn on those post notifications so you don't miss any of the mock draft videos. Of course, more videos coming soon, so you guys are going to not want to miss them. And I will see you all in the next video.